I jolted awake, heart racing. Something felt wrong. The hum of the dorm was unsettlingly still. No late-night giggles or murmured conversations from my hallmates. I rubbed my eyes, blinking against the darkness. My room was bathed in the usual dim glow from the street lamp outside, but something pulled me toward the door. I listened. There was a faint sound. Footsteps. Not one or two, but dozens, moving in perfect unison. What the hell? I climbed out of bed, my bare feet padding softly on the cold floor as I crept toward the door. Slowly, I turned the knob, wincing at the slight creak. Peering out, my breath caught in my throat. Everyone was in the hallway, all my dorm mates, their eyes half closed, their faces blank. They were sleepwalking, moving silently and uniformly down the corridor. My roommate Lucy was among them, her head tilted slightly forward, arms hanging limply at her sides. I wanted to call out to her, shake her awake, but something deep inside told me not to. I couldn't explain it, but I turned cold as ice. They weren't just sleepwalking. There was purpose behind their steps, as if they were being called. Fear gripped me as I backed into my room. What should I do? Lock the door? Call someone? But no. What if they come back? What if they find out I'm awake? I took a deep breath. There was only one way to figure out what was happening. I needed to follow them, but blend in. Acting on pure instinct, I shuffled into the hallway, careful to match their pace. My arms hung loosely, my eyes half-lidded, my breathing steady. I merged into the line of sleepwalkers. My heart was hammering in my feet. We moved down the hall, out of the dorm, and into the cold night. Everything was quiet. All you could hear was the synchronized sound of shuffling feet. The group headed toward the old abandoned building behind the campus. It had been off-limits for years, rumors swirling about accidents and disappearances. But now it seemed we were all going there willingly. The doors creaked as the first few students entered, the ancient wood groaning under their body weight. I kept my expression blank even as dread clawed at my insides. We descended down a flight of stairs, deeper and deeper into the bowels of the building. I was trapped in this nightmare, but I couldn't stop now. What the hell was I thinking? The group led us into an underground chamber. My breath hitched in my throat as I saw a massive black pool, its surface impossibly still and reflecting nothing but the void. The pool seemed to pulse, as if alive. One by one, my dorm mates approached the edge, stepping forward with mindless obedience. They jumped. No splash, no ripple, just gone, consumed by the pool as if they had never existed. Panic rose in my chest. What was this? A ritual? A curse? And what would happen to me when it was my turn? I was nearing the front of the line now, only a few people left before I'd be forced to jump. My hands trembled, though I kept them slack by my sides. I could hear the faint hum growing louder, like a distant chant just at the edge of hearing, pulling me toward the water. Lucy was in front of me. She took one step, then another, her bare feet edging closer to the abyss. She paused at the edge for just a moment before disappearing into the blackness. I was next. Time slowed. I could feel the pull, the magnetic force beckoning me toward the water. My breath quickened, my mind screaming at me to stop. But I had to keep up the act. One wrong move and they'd know I wasn't one of them. I approached the edge, staring down into the endless black below. The pool seemed to reach for me, tendrils of darkness curling up like fingers, ready to drag me under. Then a thought hit me. If everyone was being drawn here, maybe they were still alive. Maybe this pool was a gateway and not a grave. Or maybe that was just the insanity of fear talking. Either way, I had no choice. I took a deep breath, preparing to fake the jump. My plan was simple. I'd leap just far enough to hit the edge, not the water, and then I'd figure it out. But before I could jump, something cold and slimy wrapped around my ankle. I screamed, breaking the facade, stumbling backward as a hand, no, a twisted, deformed claw, dragged itself from the water's surface. It was hideous, a pale, bloated thing with too many fingers, its skin slick with the black liquid. Its grip tightened as it pulled me forward, closer to the edge. I kicked, thrashing, trying to free myself, but it was no use. The sleepwalkers continued their march, oblivious, stepping calmly around me as the thing dragged me inch by inch toward the pool. In a final burst of panic, I reached down, clawing at its hand, ripping my nails into its flesh. I pulled away, scrambling to my feet. The creature hissed, its mouth opening to reveal rows of jagged teeth, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. I bolted, sprinting toward the stairs. My heart pounded. I was completely out of breath. The last thing I heard before reaching the surface was the sound of the sleepwalkers still marching, still jumping, as if nothing had happened. I burst out of the old building, collapsing on the grass outside. My chest heaved as I tried to process what I had just seen. The others, my friends, were still down there, trapped. And whatever had taken them was still waiting. I lay on the damp grass, gasping for air, my body trembling from adrenaline. My mind raced as I tried to make sense of what had just happened. The dorm, the sleepwalkers, that thing in the water. I pushed myself up, scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. The campus was so quiet, as if the world had paused while I'd been down there. The few remaining streetlights flickered weakly. It was hard to believe that just minutes ago I'd been surrounded by dozens of my dormmates. Now they were all gone. I needed help. Someone had to know what was going on. But who would believe me? I reached into my pocket for my phone. My hands were shaking so badly it almost slipped from my grip. No signal. Of course, I was on my own, for now. The old building was behind me, its dark windows almost like empty eyes watching my every move. I knew I couldn't leave Lucy and the others down there, not without a fight. But what could I do? Go back into that hellish place alone? Face whatever was in that pool again? A rustle in the bushes made me jump. My head snapped toward the sound. My legs buckled beneath me, but I saw nothing. Probably just my imagination, or a squirrel. I forced myself to breathe, trying to calm the frantic beating of my heart. But then the rustling grew louder, closer. I backed up, every nerve in my body screaming to run. But before I could move, a figure emerged from the shadows. "Lucy?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. She stepped into the faint light, her eyes wide and unfocused. Her clothes were soaked, dripping with the same black liquid from the pool. But something was wrong, terribly wrong. Her skin was pale, too pale, and her movements were jerky, unnatural, like a puppet on strings. "Lucy," I repeated, my voice louder, more desperate. She didn't respond. Instead, she took a step toward me, her mouth opening slightly. I saw something shift behind her eyes, something dark. The air around her felt colder, like the temperature had dropped the moment she appeared. I backed away slowly. "Lucy, what happened to you? Are you okay?" No answer. Her eyes locked onto mine, unblinking, as she moved closer. That's when I noticed the black liquid. It wasn't just dripping from her clothes. It was leaking from her mouth, her nose, even her eyes, like the pool was trying to escape through her skin. Then she smiled. But it wasn't Lucy's smile. It was twisted, like someone had stretched her mouth too wide, the corners pulling up into an unnatural grin. "Join us," she whispered, her voice a strange, garbled echo of itself. "The water is calling you." My stomach churned. I took another step back, but Lucy, or whatever was controlling her, lunged forward, her hand shooting out to grab me. Her grip was ice cold, her fingers digging into my arm with inhuman strength. I screamed, yanking my arm free and stumbling backward. She staggered but didn't stop, her eyes now glowing with some weird light. "Come with me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's so peaceful in the dark." I turned and ran, my feet pounding against the pavement as I sprinted back toward the dorm. I could hear Lucy behind me, her wet footsteps slapping against the ground, but I didn't dare look back. My lungs burned, my muscles screamed for relief, but I kept running. I had to get away from her, from it. I burst into the dorm, slamming the door behind me and locking it. My chest heaved as I leaned against the door, trying to catch my breath, but the fear gnawed at me. What had happened to her? Was it the pool? Did the others come back too? I hurried to my room and shoved my desk in front of the door. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. I collapsed onto my bed, my heart still pounding, and tried to think. Something terrible was happening beneath the campus. That black pool wasn't just water, it was alive, pulling people in, turning them into whatever Lucy had become. I needed to figure out what it was, and fast, before more people got taken. But where would I start? Suddenly, there was a loud thump against my door. I froze, my body going rigid. Another thump, followed by a low, creepy growl. I grabbed my phone, praying the signal had come back. Still nothing. My only hope was to barricade myself inside until morning, but the noise at the door told me I didn't have that much time. Then, from the other side of the door, I heard Lucy's voice, soft, almost sweet. "Let me in, please," she whispered. "It's just me. I'm not going to hurt you." My blood turned to ice. I swallowed, forcing myself to speak. "You're not Lucy anymore. What are you?" Silence. Then, the sound of nails scratching against the wood, slow, deliberate. "You'll know soon enough," she said, her voice darker now. "We all go back to the water eventually." I backed away from the door, my mind racing. I needed a way out, a plan. The pool wasn't just some freaky supernatural occurrence. It was part of something bigger, something ancient and evil. If I could figure out how to stop it, maybe I could save Lucy and the others. But time was running out, and whatever had taken over my friend wasn't going to wait for long. Another thump, louder this time. The door creaked as something heavy pressed against it. I turned, my eyes scanning the room for anything that could help. My gaze landed on my laptop. Maybe I could find something, some clue about the pool, the history of this campus, anything to give me an edge. I grabbed it and started typing furiously, my fingers trembling over the keys. Whatever was out there wasn't going to wait forever. The darkness was coming for me, and I had to be ready. The scratching on the door intensified, nails clawing at the wood with a maddening persistence. I could hear Lucy, or whatever she had become, whispering just beyond the threshold. Her voice was distorted as if something else was speaking through her. "There's no escape. It's already inside you." I swallowed hard, forcing down the rising panic. My hands shook as I scrolled through old campus archives, desperate to find any information about the pool. There had to be something, some story, legend, or forgotten warning. My breath quickened as I skimmed through articles about the campus, students, and strange disappearances over the years. No one ever mentioned the pool, but there were rumors about the old building. Then I found an entry from the 1800s buried in the campus records. The building had been part of a secret society, a cult almost, dedicated to the Dark Waters, an ancient force worshipped by early settlers. They believed the pool was a gateway, a portal to another realm, where something inhuman resided. The settlers had sealed it away, but over time the seal had weakened. The cult had reawakened it, drawing the students in one by one. It all made sense now. The sleepwalking, the pool, the twisted version of Lucy. They weren't just being pulled into the water. They were being claimed by it. My blood ran cold as I read the final line of the document. Those who return from the water are no longer themselves. They belong to it. Suddenly the door rattled violently, snapping me out of my thoughts. Lucy, no, the thing, was trying to break in. My heart pounded in my chest as I backed away, frantically searching the room for anything I could use as a weapon. My eyes landed on a heavy metal lamp, the closest thing to protection I had. The door splintered, the wood cracking under the force of whatever was slamming into it. Then, with a final deafening crash, the door burst open. Lucy stood in the doorway, her eyes glowing with that sickly, unnatural light, black liquid still dripping from her mouth and hands. She smiled, that twisted, too wide smile again. "You can't fight it," she whispered, stepping into the room. "The water calls for you too." I gripped the lamp tightly, my pulse racing. "Stay back, Lucy. I don't want to hurt you." She tilted her head, her smile widening. "It's too late. You've already heard the call." Before I could react, she lunged at me faster than I thought possible. I swung the lamp, catching her across the shoulder, but she barely flinched. Her strength was unnatural, and she slammed into me, knocking me to the ground. The lamp flew from my hand, clattering uselessly across the floor. She grabbed my wrist, pinning me down, her face inches from mine. I could smell the sickly metallic stench of the black liquid as it dripped onto my skin, burning like acid. Her eyes, glowing like dying embers, bore into mine. "You'll join us soon," she hissed. "The water is in you now." I struggled beneath her, panic surging through me. I could feel the cold creeping up my arms, spreading through my veins like ice. Was she right? Had I already been infected by whatever was in the pool? No, I grunted, summoning every bit of strength I had. I twisted my body, kicking her off me with all my might. She staggered back, surprised by the force, and I scrambled to my feet, grabbing the fallen lamp. She was on me again in an instant, but this time I was ready. I swung the lamp as hard as I could, connecting with her temple. She let out a terrible screech and stumbled backward, black liquid pouring from the wound. But she wasn't done yet. Her body convulsed, twitching unnaturally as she rose to her feet once more. "I won't go back!" I screamed, slamming the lamp down again and again until she stopped moving. My chest heaved, my arms trembling as I stood over her motionless body. The room was deathly silent, except for my ragged breathing. But then something moved. Lucy's body twitched, and from the corner of my eye I saw the black liquid seeping out of her, pooling on the floor. It was alive, shifting and writhing like a nest of snakes. It slithered toward the door, back toward the source, the pool. Whatever had possessed her was retreating, returning to its dark sanctuary. I knew this was my chance. I couldn't just run and leave it there. I had to end this, once and for all. I grabbed my phone and raced out of the room, following the trail of black liquid. It led me back through the campus, straight to the old building. The darkness felt darker now, the air thick, as if the entire campus was suffocating under the weight of the pool's influence. I descended the stairs once more this time, my heart in my throat. The black pool was waiting for me, its surface still and menacing, like a mouth waiting to swallow me whole. But this time, I was prepared. The archives had mentioned the settlers using fire to seal the pool. It was the only thing that had weakened the connection between our world and whatever lurked beneath. I had grabbed some lighter fluid from the maintenance closet on my way here, and now I stood at the edge of the pool, the bottle in one hand and a lighter in the other. The black liquid pulsed, almost as if it recognized me. The air hummed with an unnatural energy, and from the depths of the pool I could see shapes, twisted, human-like figures, writhing just beneath the surface. "You can't have me," I whispered, stepping closer to the edge. "You can't have any of us." With that, I poured the lighter fluid around the pool's perimeter, the smell of gasoline suffocating me. I flicked the lighter, the small flame dancing in the darkness. For a brief moment I hesitated, then I dropped the flame. The fire roared to life, racing around the edge of the pool. The black water hissed and bubbled, thrashing violently as the flames licked at its surface. The entire room shook as the pool recoiled, the figures beneath the surface screeching in agony. I backed away, watching as the fire consumed the black liquid, its hold on this world weakening. The pool shrank, its surface churning wildly until, with one final shriek, it collapsed in on itself, disappearing into nothingness. The fire burned out quickly, leaving only silence in its wake. The air felt lighter, the oppressive weight lifted. It was over. I collapsed to the ground, exhausted, the adrenaline finally draining from my body. I had done it. The pool was gone. Whatever ancient evil had been lurking beneath the campus was sealed away once again. But as I lay there catching my breath, I knew that something was still watching me. The water might be gone, but its influence lingered. And I knew deep down that the darkness would never truly be gone. Not entirely.